G'day guys and welcome to me lab. Now in this lesson we are giving our favourite little bogan a projectile weapon. So in the original Super Mario Bros, our favourite little Italian plumber gets to be able to throw fireballs, because that of course makes sense. Well, our bogan Bazza, he's going to be able to kick his thongs at the enemies. And I know already many of you North Americans are laughing because I said the word thong. And I'm going to say that word, thong, many more times in this particular thong-themed video. So you're just going to need to get hold of yourselves, all right? See, if we were doing, to get that same response here in Australia, perhaps it would be me giving a guitar lesson and constantly asking you to touch your G-string. That would be the equivalent over here. But you're just going to have to deal with it, all right? I'm saying thong, it's the right word as far as I'm concerned. If you've got a problem with that, I don't care if you enjoy laughing yourself silly through this entire video. All right, let's have a look at our WWSS so you know what we're doing, and then we're going to have a quick look at the game as it stands now, and then we'll get into the tutorial for how we're going to go about giving our Bazza the Bogan a thong to flick at the toad. All right, let's have a look. Just what are we getting up to in this lesson? Well, we are going to be making our fire flower, or in this case, a thong, that our bogan can use as their projectile weapon. Why? Well, to give our player that projectile bonus, the same way that it is in Super Mario Bros. At the end of the day, we're trying to emulate what we can do there. The main things you're going to be working with in this one is going to be scenes and scripts, plus a little bit of animated sprite 2D and area 2D stuff as well. Well, by the end of this lesson, you're going to be able to bump a question mark block, and if you are already big, then a thong will appear that you can grab and start to kick your thongs at those cane toads. So let's start out by doing a quick tour of what the game looks like at the moment, and we'll also expose a couple of issues that we need to resolve. So I'm going to jump in. First thing I'm going to do is get the power up there that makes me larger. Now let's oh, I've already died. Well done. What I'm going to do is get myself down into the other level that we made, because there's a bit of an error that occurs there, I've noticed. Yeah, I would never make a good live streamer of video game playing. I know that's something a lot of people love to watch, but I'm just terrible. Even if I made the game, I am terrible at playing the game. Alright, I think we're almost to our second level. Alright, now the issue I was talking about is that it straight away reduces our size. So because we made a lot of these variables just in our player script, when we get to our new level and we reinstantiate that player in a new scene, we lose any variables we made. So as a part of what we're going to do now, we're actually going to move some of that gear into our global script as well, which will just mean when we go to our new levels, everything in that global script will persist across. Alright, so that's what we look like at the moment. We're going to be changing that up so we've got new things that we can get from our question blocks, and then we can, kick those thongs. So let's have a look at maybe grabbing step one, and that's going to be getting some sprites into our game. Before we jump into the tutorial, if you're enjoying what you're seeing here, why don't you give the channel a subscribe? I'm just going to interrupt myself here with a bit of a disclaimer. You see, I wear a lot of hats. I'm a teacher, I'm an educational neuroscientist, I'm a Godot dev, I'm a musician, I'm a terrible inventor of useless garbage, and all of those things are covered here on this channel. And I hope that you're keen to join me on that journey so we can all grow more awesome together. But if you are laser focused on a particular topic like Godot, I don't want to mislead you and you get annoyed that I'm doing a lot of non-Godot stuff. So everything's divided into playlists to make life a bit easier for you. So only subscribe if you really want that full experience of all the different learning. Otherwise, just follow the right playlist for you. All right, let's get back to the video. The channel a subscribe, and you can stay up to date with everything that we're doing. All right, so the first thing we should do is probably get our assets imported. So there's going to be two new assets you need for this one, and that's going to be one for the thong, including an animation for when it's going through the air, as well as a new one for our player, because our player is going to change color and have some extra animations, right? So you can get those from the itch, from Git, or from the OneNote if you're doing this with me at school. And what you're going to want is Bazza large thongs. That's going to be one of them. And the other, did I get that in the right spot? Yes, I did, Basilage thongs, and then also the one that's just called thong.png. So there's two. One is just the thong itself, and one is for Bazza, as he's a bit different. So that's step 1. Right, so I think step 2, we will make a new scene for our thong that will be the projectile itself, and step 3 will be a new scene for our thong that will be the collectible that comes out of our question block. So let's get started on both of those now. So to do a new scene, we go up to the top, we click on the little plus, and that gives us a new empty scene. So for these, we're going to create them based on an area 2D. So I'm going to search for an area 2D. This one I'm going to call just thong. I'm then going to give it a animated, actually this one can be the collectible one, so let's do this one as just a sprite 2D, and then we also want to have a collision shape for it so we can interact with it. So our thong has two children or child nodes, sprite 2D and collision shape 2D. So let's grab our 2D view of this at the moment, and nothing's happening yet, right, because we haven't assigned any sprites. So let's click on our sprite, go to our inspector, and in our empty texture, that's where we're going to go and throw our new thong. Oh, where is it? Down the bottom here somewhere. There we go, thong PNG. So I'm going to just drag this up here. And basically we don't want this to be all of them, so we click on the animation tab, and we're going to say, all right, yes, V frames 1, H frames, how many were there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the frame we want is just frame 0, like that. I do think that these might end up being a bit big, so I'm just going to scale it down a bit like that. And then our collision shape, so click on your collision shape, over in your inspector, shape, empty, and maybe a new circle shape will be fine. There we go. All right, I'm going to save that. That's going to be thong.tscn. All right, what should we do next? Probably the actual throwing thong. It's actually, I just got myself confused. I'm going to change that. I want this one to actually be thong power up, like that. Thong power up. And I actually would rather save this one as thong power up. So thong, otherwise I'm going to get myself confused. Power up, thong power up. All right. So what I'm going to do now is just delete the thong scene, and we'll make a new scene that will be that thong scene in just a moment. So there's our thong power up. This will need a script, so why don't we attach that script to it now? Click on our new script, create, takes us straight into there. So our thong power up script, there's not actually going to be much going on in here. So let's just copy and paste the whole thing in. All right, so we need to signal this area through. So I'm going to go to our node, click on our thong power up, find body entered, double click on that and connect it. So that's going to connect that this one here through. And then we're saying if the body is in group player, which we've already set up, then global current state, we haven't done this yet obviously, equals global player state.thong. So we're saying we want to change the state of our player to be this thong state. That's all that's going to happen when we collect it, and then it just deletes itself, self.queueFree, right? So that's the entire script for the collectible thong. So when the one that appears on the question block, jump up, grab it, it deletes itself and changes our state in our global script. So let's save that. That is done. Now let's create another new scene, and this one is also going to be based on an area 2D, like that. And this one I'm going to call thong. And it's going to get an animated sprite 2D as a child node, and it's also going to get a collision shape as a child node as well. So make sure that you've got those done. I think I also want another, I'm going to put in another area 2D, and this one I'm going to call hitbox. This is the one that I'm going to just handle the logic for when it comes into contact with our toad, and that will also need a collision shape. So there we go. All right, so now let's go up to our animated sprite 2D, and let's come across to our inspector, click on the animation window, and when we've got sprite frames and empty, click on empty, click on new sprite frames, and then click on it again, and we get our default animation, which we can just leave this one as called default. It can loop, it can go at about 6. Then we're going to click on our grid, and then we find our thong, which is there, and this was going to be 5 by 1, and then you just grab them all, add those in, there we go, and we only need the one animation for this, so let's save what we've got. This one will also need a script, so let's create our script for it. create that. And our thong script on this one's going to be a little bit longer. So let's grab all that, paste it in. All right, and let's also make sure we signal these through. So I'm going to click on my hitbox over there, click on the node, body entered, connect, and I think I need to signal. No, I don't think I need to signal thong one. It's only that one that I want to signal through. All right, we still need our collision 2D. So let's jump into our 2D view before we deal with our script. Zoom on in on our thong here. Let's move it up. Let's make it smaller. Okay, now let's have a look at our thong's collision shape. So click on our collision shape inspector shape and give it actually, I think a capsule's probably a better one. Go back. Capsule, there we go. It's going to need to be a lot smaller. No, not a lot skinnier like that. And now our hitbox also needs a collision shape, so we're going to click on that one. And so like I said, this is the one that's going to come into contact with the enemy, so maybe a circle that's a little bit larger like that. All right, so let's save that. That's that side of it done. We've got to go back into our script now. So onto our script, and for our thong, let's have a look at what we've got going on in here. Okay, so we're extending our area 2D because that's our root node. We want to set our velocity to 500, and then we've got this onReady variable for our sprite, just so we can deal with that down here. Our ready function, we're going to add this to the group thong. So we've added our player to the group player, our enemy to the group enemy. We're going to add this to the group thong, and we're going to do something in our toad script and scene a bit later to work all this through, right? And then we just want to play the default animation once it's happening. Our physics process is just about the position. And then if something comes into this hitbox and it's in the group enemy, we want to cue the thong free as well as, cue the thong free as well as the toad. So that that's the thong being deleted, that's the toad being deleted, because the toad is the body that has entered our area. All right, so that looks pretty good as well. So that's steps 2 and 3 done. Now it's time to have a think about what we're going to get up to next. I think the next best thing to work on would be our question mark block that we jump up and bump into. So we've got our script for that up in front of us here, right? And I've just made a bit of space to highlight what section we're changing. And it's essentially, we just want to add some more logic in and around this global.spawn beer bottle. So what I'm going to do is just grab that and copy it in, and then we can have a quick chat about it. All right, so instead of just this one line, we're now going to have several lines. Now, let's have a talk about it. So what we want to do is we want to match our global current state, right? So we're going to check what our player's state is at the moment, and we want to say that if it is small, then we want to spawn the beer bottle, right? So let me say that again, just to make sure we're clear. So we're checking the state that our player currently is, and we're storing that in the global script. We haven't got to that script yet, but we will soon. All right, so we want to check that. If it is currently small, then we want to spawn the beer bottle, which is also a global function, right? So we're calling that from global, and we want it to just appear about 20 pixels above our bouncing block there, okay? If, however, the global player state is big or thong, then we want to spawn the thong power up. Just like in Mario, if you've already got the fire flower, then when you get those, it's just fire flowers still, right? So that's doing that, and I've just made that a slight bit higher above. And then we go back into our normal bump onwards and things like that. So that's actually all that's changing in that one. So make sure you've saved that. So that is step, 4? Done. All right, so we've now done our question block, so we're probably ready to go on to our global script now, I think. All right, so global script time. So get your global script up on your screen, and at the moment, all we're really doing in here is tracking our coins, our lives, and also this is where we're going to spawn our beer bottle from. So we're going to add a lot more here. We're going to also spawn our fire flower equivalent from here, and we're also going to update this to handle our player states as well, because it's getting a bit too complex now, so we need to have a better system. So here's what we're going to do first up. We're going to add these 2 lines up the top. So after our variable for our player lives, we want to add in an enum for our player state. So it's just going to be either small, big, or thong. Those are the 3 options. And then a variable called current state, and it will initially start off as our player being small. That should make pretty good sense. We've already got our spawn beer bottle, right? So this is the logic for that. Then we just need to add in some logic for our new function, which will be for spawning the thong power up, which is that one there. Now, if you're unsure, let's just have a look at the these locations and things. So beer.tscn, That's going to be up here, beer.tscn. Hang on, let me just check. You can see that on the screen. You can. And then for our thong power up, well, that's going to appear right behind my head. Let's see if I can do something about that. No, I always grab the wrong screen when I try and do this. All right, so there's your thong power up.tscn there. That's the one that's going to be called here. If you've got a filing system and you've sort of put scenes in their own files, then these are the things that you have to update, right? Let me just move my face back over. All right, so that is our global script done. We're pretty much getting to the point where our player script is where it's all going to be at. So that's probably where we want to head to next. So why don't you go and get your player script up next, and let's go through this one in detail because we're going to make a fair few changes to it. All right, so let's all get into our player script and let's work our way through this one bit by bit. So first up, we're going to add in a new variable, and that is going to be var is firing thong, and we'll set that to false to start with. All right, then we've got our is dying, is jumping, is big. They can all stay. Let's also have a var can fire thong. Oops, equals false at the moment as well. We've got our speed, our velocity, and I also just want to get a new one in here for our player direction, which will just make sure we can fire in the direction we're facing later on. All right, so we've got our gravity, that can stay the same. These two on-readies can stay the same, but we're going to add another one in, which will mean we have to actually add something into our scene as well. So this one here, on-ready var thong fire timer, is going to be this thong fire timer. So we need a timer. Click on the thong root node. Oh, hang on, let me think. We're in our player. Why am I clicking on my thong root node? We need our player scene. In our player scene, click on the player root node, click on the plus and look for a timer, and then name that timer thong fire timer. All right, and then that's all we're doing there is making a shortcut to it. So we've got that variable ready to go. Now let's add another line here. So after our death timer, we're going to have one for our thong timer. Timers everywhere. All right, there's our thong one as well. That whole thing fits on that screen, so that's good. All right, next, let's keep scrolling down into our physics process. Is dying, that's fine. Is not on floor, that's fine. I think here's where we're going to need to whack something in. So just above where we handle our jump, I think will be a nice spot to fit this. We're going to say if global.current state equals the global.player state thong. So if our current state is thong, and we're hitting the fire button, which we haven't mapped yet, then we want to run this particular function, which we haven't made yet. All right, so we'll get to that in a moment. So keeping on going down, that's the same. That direction stuff should all be the same as well. Move and slide, etc. Update our animation. If is dying, all right, we're going to make a slight change here. If is dying or is firing thong, then we want to return. Now we're going to make another change here. And this will actually replace all of this if is jumping, etc. So I'm going to grab the whole block and we'll pop that in like so. All right, so what have we got this time? So again, we're looking to match the states that we've created in our global script. So the global current state, if our player is currently small or big and they are jumping, then we want to use our normal jump animation. If the direction is different, we want to flip them. Same with the run, same with the idle. But if we've got the thong state selected, then we want to do the thong versions of those same things, right? So up here, we've got, you know, up, left, right, etc. We're going to get a new one in here for fire, which will be all to do with hitting our space bar basically. So we'll map that soon. Okay, so thong idle, that's all done. Now we come down here to our hitbox body entered, etc. This is going to get a little bit more complex. So let me grab a whole chunk of it there, copy, and I'm going to throw it all in together like so. So again, we're dealing with states here as well. So I might just rehash this particular signal just to make sure it works. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. All right. Oh, what did I do? I broke. Yes, I know that's an error. Doesn't like me changing things when we've already got errors. That's okay. All right. So that's the hitbox body entered portion. Our dying pretty much stays the same. If is dying, global.player lives. If global player lives, that's all the same. Move player up and down should stay exactly the same. Death timer timeout is fine. We've got our big and our small. These are going to become different now. So I'm going to grab a few more blocks of code here, and I'll also include in here the fire thong and all of that. So this will be a little bit of code now. Paste that in. All right, we'll go from the top down though. So that was our last bit of code that we had already in there, was that death timer. So now we come down, we've replaced our big function to actually change our player state as well as make our sprite a bit bigger. Our small function just shrinks them back again and changes our state. The thong one is all about setting, so got thong is all about setting it so that we've got the thong. Then our fire thong, which was what was giving us the error up further, we're going to set our is firing thong to true, print that just as a debug. We want to load that thong scene that we made and instantiate it, and we're going to pop that just in front of our player basically. Then our thong is going to set its velocity depending upon the direction that we're facing, which is what we were playing around with earlier. Print another debug to make sure everything's working. We're going to grab that thong, we're going to play the correct animation, we're going to wait for that animation to finish. I don't think it actually needs to be 1.5 to be honest. It can probably be 1.0, it can be 0.5 probably, and then on thong firing. All right, so that is all that gear. Let me just shrink that down a little bit. Actually, you know what I'll do? I'll do this, make it super big, just so everything fits on there and everyone can see what they need. And remember, I've said this before, but I generally recommend watching the whole thing through, then going back and pausing, playing, pausing, so you get everything in context. But that's that bit there. I think we're getting to the point where I'm going to have to map that key, and if you've watched a few of these, you know I'm not a fan of messing with project settings because it does weird things to my machine, but let's give that a go. So I think the last step here is going to be mapping our fire key. All right, let's try our luck. So head up to your project settings, head to your input map, and we're going to add a new action. We're going to call it fire, and then we're going to click on the plus, and I'm just going to use my spacebar, which has already failed to load. Oh, there we go. It might let us get through. Or spinning pinwheel of death. Beware. All right, so what I'll do is I'll just pause this and come back to it. You know how this works. Click OK on that one. Click close down the bottom and it takes you back into the main bit. So I'm just going to pause this and fast forward it on my end, and I'll meet you back in the main view. All right, so I've got the fire logic set up now, so that's all fine. Hopefully you did too. I've just added another question block to my world scene, but before we do anything more, I think we need to get that Bogan animation for the fire flower equivalent all sorted out. So let's go to our player scene. Let's go to our animated sprite 2D and come down to our animation. So you click on your sprite frames there, right? We're going to want to add some more. So we want to have a thong idle, a thong run, a thong jump, and a thong fire. So 4, and we're going to call those thong underscore idle, thong underscore jump, thong underscore run, and thong underscore fire. All right, so let's start with the thong fire one. That seems to be what we want to do. I don't want that to be on loop, and we'll set it to, I don't know, 6 frames a second or something like that. Click on our grid, find our Baza large thongs. Horizontal is going to be 7, 8. 8. All right, and we were working on first the firing one, so that's actually going to be these ones just here. So we've got that's where we get a bit of a run up. That's where we, oh no, that's our jumping one. I'm sorry, it's over here. That one, and then we want it to finish back on the idle one. So add those 3 frames in there. Perfect. That's thong fire, thong idle. So we can leave that on loop. It doesn't really matter. And it was going to be 8 and 1. Oh, it remembered for once. Click on our idle, jump, and our jump is that one and that one. Add those, and our run is going to be essentially that one, and that one. Add those 3 as well. All right, so we must be getting pretty close now. So save that, and we'll have a think about what our next step should be. I feel we're really close. Why don't we just jump in and give it a go? All right, so there might be 1 or 2 things left to do, but my mind might be failing me now. Let's just jump in and see what we get. So start it up. All right, yep, there's our bottle. That made me larger like we expect. There's our thong. Oh, I might be able to make that a bit bigger actually. It's changed my sprite to being the one with the different colored high vis. I can kick my thongs. They kill the toads. Excellent. All right, now the last thing I would like to check is to make sure that this will persist when we go to the other levels. So let's do a bit of fancy ballet. All right, and then into here, and yep, we're still in the correct sprite animation. We can still throw our things. So that's it. That has worked. I am super stoked. I hope you guys will get all of that done. Let's have a look at our must main white so you know exactly what you got to do to keep up. All right, what you must get done, you're going to have to make the new scene and script for the thong as the projectile, the new scene and script for the thong as the collectible, update the player script, update the question mark block, update the global script. So there's lots of steps. So you might want to make sure you watch it all the way through, go back and start again just so you don't miss anything. What you may like to do is add another level or two. Start plonking those question mark blocks all around the place to make your game a bit more interesting. And what you might be able to get done is maybe consider how we would give Bazza a speed bonus, like the invincibility stars that we can get in Super Mario Bros. Well, if you've got all of that done, you can now get a mushroom and a fire flower, or our versions thereof, and end up getting larger and getting a ranged attack and having those extra sort of lives built into it. As for next time, maybe let me know in the comments what you would like me to have a look at next. Otherwise, I'll probably go on and do something like those invincibility stars or something like that. The quote I would like to leave you with this time is from Bertrand Russell, my favorite philosopher slash mathematician of the early 20th century. Bertrand once said, "The only thing that will redeem mankind is cooperation." Thanks, and I'll see you next time, guys.